May 2nd, 2011, Abbottabad, Pakistan. In the smoking ruins of a secret compound, U.S. Navy SEALs seize a gold mine of information. 5 computers, 10 hard drives, and 100 thumb drives. This was the digital ghost of Osama bin Laden. Intelligence analysts expected to find terror plots and messages between the leadership of Al-Qaeda, and they did, but they also found something else, something that did not make sense. It was a digital library, meticulously crafted by the world's most wanted man. Along with the strategic documents and religious texts was a file containing the book titled The New Pearl Harbor. This book is one of the foundational texts for the September 11th Truther movement. Its central idea is that the US government was involved in the attacks on September 11th. The architect of the attack was an obsessive consumer of theories that claimed he did not do it. This was not just a casual interest, it was a symptom of a much deeper psychological collapse. This is what happens to a pattern-seeking brain when it's sealed off from reality. It's how the man behind one of the ultimate conspiracy theories became just another consumer of the same conspiracy. In the end, the most wanted man on Earth wasn't a prisoner of the CIA, he was a prisoner of his own mind. Osama bin Laden's mindset of isolation began in December 2001 at the Battle of Tora Bora. Trapped in the mountains of Afghanistan, he watched as the world's greatest superpower hunted him with billion-dollar technology. Somehow he survived, but his experience taught him a critical lesson. The digital world was a trap. Every email, every satellite phone call, every radio transmission was a digital breadcrumb leading to his door. To truly disappear, he had to become a ghost. For 3 years, he vanished completely. No one in Al-Qaeda leadership had heard from him. He was a leader with no army, a voice with no one to hear it. Then in 2005, they purchased a piece of land in Abbottabad, Pakistan, and a 3-story compound rose from the dust. It was designed with a single purpose: to erase a man from the modern world. The walls were 18 feet high, topped with barbed wire. There were no phone lines, no internet cables, no windows facing the road. The residents even burned their own trash to avoid any outside suspicion. Bin Laden didn't just move into a safe house. He became the subject of his own psychological experiment and successfully severed every connection to the global network he once used to wage war. Safe from electronic detection, he was sealed away from his enemies, but he had also sealed himself off from something else: reality. Inside the Abbottabad compound, time slowly moved in circles. There were no new faces, no unexpected sounds, no traffic from the outside world. It was a life of extreme sensory monotony. To avoid being detected by satellite surveillance, bin Laden adopted a strange routine. He would wear a cowboy hat in his head and walk for hours in his small garden. Back and forth, the ghost was pacing in a cage of his own design. The children of his couriers, who were told he was just a relative, had a nickname for him: Miskeen Kaka, or Poor Uncle. To them, he was just a quiet, isolated man who never left the house and never had any money to go shopping. But so much more was happening under the surface. The human brain is a pattern-seeking machine which has evolved to navigate a complex and ever-changing world. When deprived of new stimuli, when there are no new patterns to solve, your brain does not go quiet. It turns inward. It begins to obsessively reanalyze the old data. Every memory, every belief, every bias is amplified in the silence. Minor suspicions grow into unshakable paranoia. Old ideas become holy scripture. Bin Laden lived a frugal life, reportedly owning only a few sets of clothes. His physical world had been reduced to almost nothing. This forced his entire existence into the only space he had left: the vast, looping corridors of his own mind. But this sterile environment was not entirely sealed, as there was one single leak. A man with a flash drive who served as bin Laden's only window to a world he could no longer see. Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti was the lens to the outside world. He was not just a messenger, but also the gatekeeper of bin Laden's sanity. The communication system they managed was a masterpiece of analog paranoia in a digital age. Bin Laden would type a message on a computer that had never touched the internet and save it to a thumb drive. The courier would take that drive, leave the compound, and travel hundreds of miles to a distant internet cafe. There, he would copy the message, send it, download any replies or requested media, and return to the compound, where the cycle would begin again. This created a profound information lag. A single exchange with bin Laden's deputy, Ayman al-Zawahiri, could take weeks, even months. Bin Laden could not lead his global movement in real time. He was sending letters to ghosts and getting replies long after the world had moved on. But the most critical role of the courier was bringing information in, not sending it out. Every article, every news report, every video bin Laden consumed was hand-selected and delivered on a flash drive. This created the perfect psychological echo chamber. A normal person is bombarded with thousands of conflicting viewpoints every day. Bin Laden received one. If the courier brought him articles about American decline, then America was in decline. If he brought him videos questioning Western narratives, then those narratives were a lie. There was no counter-argument, no dissenting opinion, no accidental exposure to a different point of view. But by 2011, the couriers were exhausted and expressed their desire to leave the compound. With this window of the world shrinking, bin Laden turned to the one place where his worldview would always be confirmed: his meticulously crafted digital library. When analysts began to sift through the 250 gigabytes of data recovered from the compound, they found what they expected: religious texts, Al-Qaeda strategic documents, and videos of beheadings. But they also found a secret corner of his library that was deeply strange. It was a collection of Western dissent, paranoia, and conspiracy. He had a copy of Hegemony of Survival, a fierce critique of American foreign policy. There was a copy of The Secrets of the Federal Reserve, a book arguing that a few elite bankers secretly controlled the US economy. There was also Bloodlines of the Illuminati and the Conspirators' Hierarchy, which both claim a secret society has controlled world events for centuries. Bin Laden had the classic collection of a conspiracy theorist, but the most shocking file of all was the one containing the new Pearl Harbor. This book alleges the Bush administration was complicit in the attacks of September 11th, which took the lives of nearly 3,000 victims. Why would the man who masterminded a world-changing attack obsess over a theory claiming he was a pawn in someone else's game? Perhaps it was the mind's desperate need to protect itself at all cost. Bin Laden's entire identity rested on the belief that the West was a fragile, corrupt, and collapsing empire. Every book that portrayed America as an evil puppet master was another piece of evidence that his jihad was righteous and his victory was inevitable. But the September 11th conspiracy theory served a deeper, more personal need. By 2011, bin Laden was a ghost. His organization was in tatters. He was irrelevant. A narcissistic mind cannot process that kind of failure. It cannot accept becoming small. This conspiracy theory offered him a psychological escape hatch. If the US government was a co-conspirator, then September 11th wasn't just a successful terror attack by an outsider. It was an event at the very center of global power. Bin Laden was no longer a fading leader in a hiding room. He was a history-altering figure, a man so important that the world's only superpower had to stage a conspiracy to facilitate his actions. This was now a dark, twisted upgrade of his work. His library of conspiracies and paranoia reflected a more powerful and significant version of himself. But this diet of self-deception came at a cost. As his fantasy world grew richer, his grip on the real world was beginning to fail. A mind fed by pure paranoia cannot effectively command an army. The declassified letters from Abbottabad reveal a leader consumed by the microscopic. In a chilling note to one of his wives, he warned her about a recent dental visit to Iran, expressing a serious fear that the dentist may have secretly implanted a tiny tracking device in her tooth. This is the mind of a pattern seeker in its final, decaying stage. The man who once saw grand patterns of global power was now hunting for conspiracies at the millimeter scale. This obsession with imagined threats crippled his ability to address real ones. His letters to Al-Qaeda commanders showed profound frustration. He tried to micromanage plots from a decade-old understanding of the world. He obsessed over the organization's public image, meticulously planning his video appearances. He dyed his beard with black ink for every recording to project an image of timeless, vigorous leadership. But he was a ghost performing for a camera in a silent room. By the time his messages reached his followers weeks or months later, the world he was analyzing no longer existed. Al-Qaeda had become decentralized, with new leaders planning their own attacks, often ignoring bin Laden's advice. He was the architect who had lost control of his own creation. The grand mastermind had been reduced to a brand manager, desperately trying to protect a legacy that was already fading. He had built a fortress to protect himself from the world, but it had worked too well. It had not only locked his enemies out, it had locked him and his mind in. Ironically, the world's most wanted man was found, but his mind was lost. A brain starved of real-world data does not stop seeking patterns, it starts creating them from the noise inside its own walls. But on May 2nd, 2011, the real world finally came crashing down on bin Laden. When the Black Hawk helicopters of the SEAL teams dropped into the compound, they weren't just breaching a concrete safe house, they were shattering a 10-year delusion. As boots hit the floorboards and suppressed rifles cleared the stairwells, the ultimate conspiracy theorist was forced to face the one thing his digital library could not protect him from: absolute reality. This is Mind Your History, where we explore the mind behind the moment.